right, welcome back to the Mutual Music Podcast. It has been a minute, but nothing's really changed. So, I'm Ryan Thompson. I got my good friend Justin Jewett here. Today, we are talking primarily about a new project that Justin just released called Wayne Honda, the Demos album, and it's a very, I think, unique, touching, and insightful project into Justin, but also touches on AI, or really leans into the AI music creation. And we're going to talk a lot about this album, the process behind it, some songs from it. We're going to have a good time with it. So, welcome,
Yeah.
Justin.
Oh, thanks for having me. And thank you for your interest in Wayne, who I realized it has a drag queen name. Wayne Honda is a perfect drag queen name,
It is a
but
good name.
I used him here, so I'll get it next time.
Cool. Well, yeah, let's talk about Wayne, the Wayne Honda project in general. This love to know more about the background, kind of the evolution of this persona, I guess, and
Hmm.
then what went into developing that, and then we'll talk some about the songs, and we'll listen to a
Yeah.
few. But yeah, so where'd Wayne come from?
Yeah, well, Wayne has roots in Ryan and roots in Mutual Music universe, the universe that we're building together. After we wrapped the Bottomless 25 project and we put out the singles for To Each Other and You're Just Better for Mondrian Urinal, I kind of started getting this rattling around in my head for like a country project. And specifically, what I had in mind, and of course, as happens with me often, it really came from a joke of like, oh, how about instead of Judy Jetson, it was Judy Stetson, right? And so here's all of a sudden I had a female country pop star waiting to happen. And so I started thinking about Judy Stetson, and I wrote this song called Trucker's Hitch, which you're very familiar with. And it's about the sort of regret of not taking the time to spend with my dad, kind of like while he was here. So I wrote that song, and you and I started to kick it around, and like the very first version that you got was incredible. However, I had this like complicated brief for what Judy Stetson was supposed to be. Judy
Right.
Stetson was supposed to be this southern, maybe like a smoky southern belle, like a young person making southern country music in collaboration with more of like a glitchy electronic beat maker, very similar to like the Postal Service, 20
Right.
odd years ago, right?
Yeah.
And so as I started developing the story, it was like, okay, I see. So Judy Stetson is the voice, but there's this person, Wayne Honda, who's writing these songs. And that also had the kind of convenience of like, okay, well, this song and these songs are kind of written from a like a masculine place. Maybe that is going to explain this woman, singing my feelings. Who knows? We're in imagination land right now, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so you and I kept chasing this brief around for 4 or 5 rounds of shit, man. Like, we have this first song that is sort of like the emotional torch of what this is supposed to be, but it doesn't match the brief. It's just a sick ass country song. And so we kept trying to hit the brief, and I kept feeding you thousands of words of notes of like, maybe it's this, maybe it's that. And also to my creative process, there are days when it's like, let's work on this till we get this. Let's get this, right?
Right.
And then there are days where it's like, I can rationalize myself into what we have right now. You know what I mean? And so it's hella, and then you're doing that also, right? So it's like super confusing, and it's hard to like connect at the same time. And so I was like, this is pretty unfair that I'm doing this to him of like, really, really like, hey, read my mind. I have this thing in, we work together, and we've done the same thing, career wise for
Yeah.
dozens and dozens of years. And my sayings about clients are, the client's always right the second time, but also I don't know what I don't want until you show it to me. I was doing I don't know what I don't want until you show it to me. And that's not fair. I don't want, nobody wants to do that. So I was like, "Hey, let's hold the phone. Let me think about this for a second." And in the rest of our lives, we're both like shatteringly busy and, all that
Yeah.
kind of stuff. So it was like, let's not have this be a point of stress. And so then really without knowing I was doing it, I signed up for Suno, and was a good boy. Like what I wanted to do was start dinking around in a free plan, but I
Hmm.
knew that anything I did there would just be poof, right? And so I got into, the next plan up or whatever, and I started goofing around, and it was like, we'll get into sort of like the production process, I think, in a second, but like it was like, oh, I have a chance to make these songs, or at least try to make these songs in the demos that they were supposed to be. So back to the lore, like Wayne was supposed to have had these songs, but he's just, he's not he's not a front person.
Right.
And so he and Judy connect somewhere at some fucking swap meet or something. And he's like, well, I have these songs. And she's like, well, I have this persona, this voice or whatever. And so they collaborate and she brings his songs to life.
Got it.
So that was what it was that was a very long way to say that. But these are now those demos that would have been handed over to Judy and say, like, I have
Yeah.
these songs that I did in my bedroom.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool because like my first question was you sent me the link to the album and I started listening to it. I was like, why demos? Like these are pretty. I mean, they are they're like most of them are like demo quality. I would say demo quality, but it's like pretty sparse
Yeah.
instrumentation and stuff. But it sounds and without knowing that backstory, I'd be like, oh, this sounds like a kind of an indie songwriter. Leaning towards country, but
Right.
also got some like Black Keys moments in there. But
Yeah.
like a guy in his bedroom making his Nebraska, and that's. But why that? But without knowing the background. So
Sure.
Wayne, if we're stepping into make believe land, Wayne is like you said, this kind of songwriter guy that's in the background. He's got all these feelings. He's the emotional, kind of lever for the band or for the group. He's writing the songs, and then eventually there's this woman, this girl Judy, that's
Yeah.
gonna sit in
Yeah.
and like confront this whole thing, and
Yeah.
together they're gonna create this awkward, fit on stage. And
Very Fleetwood Mac, yes.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
like
okay,
this shouldn't be working, but it's working.
yeah, yeah, okay. So all right, so Wayne, that kind of rounds out Wayne's character. The demos is really this is kind of like back in time. This is what Wayne created in order. He had these probably sitting in the hopper, and then was playing them at a local joint, and she came
Yeah.
up or something. Cool. All right.
Yeah. I
So
I, I also realized too,
oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, in the process of writing these songs and putting them together, like just to come back to your and my story, like I realized that Wayne wrote some of the songs that we produced already. Wayne wrote the big one for
Right.
Zanu
Okay.
News. You know what I mean? He wrote Permission, I think. Like it was interesting to find this is so woo woo, right? But it was interesting to find Wayne inside of me. It's just like, okay, this is how this guy talks, and this
Right.
is like the sort of like the
It was
pitter
an
of his
all
patter.
kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I looked backwards and I was like, oh shit, dude, you've been around for a minute.
Well, I
Anyway,
mean, I think that's one of the beauties of just songwriting and art in general is that you get to, we all have different, feelings and thoughts and, probably characters within inside
yeah,
of us, that we either repress or express at different times. So
it's crowded in here. Yeah,
yeah, yeah. So I think having Wayne, which Wayne is part of you, and he's come out obviously in the songwriting. So you have this character developing either consciously or subconsciously.
you got it.
You're writing these songs. Now, in the past, you and I had worked where you were kind of lyrics and theme, and I was more production and the music side of it. So this is your first crack at developing
Yeah.
songs using Suno as a platform. Tell me about that, because as far as I understand, you don't play instruments or anything, right? So you're okay. So
Uh,
how'd you go about like getting the melodies and the chord structures or the song structures down?
I mean, the first challenge was his voice, and his voice is loosely based on my voice.
Right.
I think I sang Edelweiss into the microphone, and just in the same way that I sang a lullaby
Right.
essentially,
Yeah.
and then started playing with that. And once that started to feel like the right instrument, then it was about, like, I would say that one of the primary struggles with getting this sound was stripping it down.
Yeah.
Suno really, really wants to make top 40 music.
Yes.
And you've experienced this when you're trying to be prescriptive about background vocals. I really, really had to go through a lot of experimentation to finally get a person playing a guitar. And
It's
even when it's just a
way
person,
harder than you would think. Yeah.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
really, it was really shitty. And like I did, so really those were like two of the main challenges.
Yeah.
Getting no kind of drum break or no kind of like synth swell and those types of things was like very
Mhm.
difficult. And later in the process, which I felt mirrored it's like any process you have for these things is going to evolve as you're working
Yeah.
on it. You know what I mean? Later in the process, I did get into like generating stems and pulling it into Suno Studio and editing, kind of track by track in kind of
Oh,
like
cool.
their GarageBand like
Yeah.
interface. And like that was a real interesting moment where it was just like, okay, I could bang my head against it in this prompting universe, or maybe I could unlock, some ability to just go in and do some edits. And I think it was worth it.
Okay, cool. I want to
Yeah.
hear more about that, but before I also want to listen to this song.
Yeah.
But let's talk about the voice real quick. So you used the voice in Suno now. You can create your own vocal, more or
Yeah.
less, right? It's a parody of your voice. And tell me about that because I've had very mixed,
Yeah.
you results with that. So I'd love to hear your take on it and what you did to get there.
Well, it was definitely like, for me, it was like, wait till everybody leaves the house and
Yeah.
lock the door. And now,
Right.
I'm whispering into my webcam or whatever. I didn't, I would love to say that I went through some careful process, but I either sang it into my iPhone paired with this as the input, or I
Hmm.
sang it into my webcam.
Yeah.
And what I realized about that process is that not only is it capturing my voice, but it's becoming very, very opinionated towards how I'm singing. So if I was standing back here and singing Edelweiss like to the room, that would totally change the character of all music that it generates on this voice. Whereas if I come here and sing it the same way, but I'm in a more hushed, intimate
Yeah.
place, that is what that voice is going to sound like.
Right.
So it occurred, I haven't done this yet, but it occurred to me that like a, if you had an act or a band like a Radiohead, right? Where it's just like some of the songs sound like this and some of the songs sound like this, and I sing some of the songs like this, and
Right.
these are our templates, and we've got a universe of templates. You would be creating multiple voices in Suno, even though it's the same vocal, or
Right.
it's the same person singing, but you would kind of capture them in all those different settings. And
Yeah.
use them like presets. It kind of was like, wow, this really, how do you make it sound, because one of the issues I had with Wayne was like, it's the same issue that you have with like an Elliott Smith or Dashboard. It's like, does somebody really want to listen to 14 songs of this, a guy
Yeah.
and a guitar? This is why
Right.
people invented drums. You know what I mean? Like,
Right. No, you're absolutely right. It gets. I've noticed that too. Early on with personas, it was the same thing. It was just like, okay, every song sounds the same, right? I have like this little country project I'm working on called the Dead Letter Saints, and
hell yeah.
I love the dude's voice, but every song is like, and every the even the instrumentation is kind of like, okay, we're gonna apply this filter to it. And I'm like,
Yeah.
kind of need to. I need something else, But
Yeah.
and even through prompting, you're not really getting there. Like his voice is always kind of the same, or if you do prompt it too hard in any direction, it just doesn't sound at all like him. So you're like, we got to figure that out. An interesting thing that happened to me when the voice thing first came out. I was like, oh, cool. So I have like recorded music, my own bands and stuff, and I actually uploaded my stuff, and then it was like, prove that's you. So I had to sing
Yeah.
it back. It was like, it's not you, and I was like,
Wow.
crazy. I was like, that's totally me. It was a couple years ago, but it's me. Yeah. Yeah. So I was not able to like, and then when I had to like adjust the way I was singing to match what I think the computer thought to make it sound like it was me, and then it all
Yeah.
came out all weird, and I was like, "That's not me."
Wow.
Yeah, it was a very weird situation. So I have yet to like master, even like become moderately good at the voice thing, but
It really is strange. And frankly, Suno, if you're listening, the UI is really strange. And I think that voice is maybe the wrong term, period, because
I agree.
persona was this is how the entire ensemble of your project sounds,
Yeah,
including the voice. Whereas
right,
this, and I was even like side prompting with another agent saying like, well, hold on. It's if I have to sing into it and then I have to prove that it's me, how am I ever making music that doesn't sound like me? Like that to me doesn't
right.
sound like what Suno's about. And they're like, oh no, that what you do is you then go prompt a song and get the voice that you get and tune it up. And then once you get a song, which is inclusive of the entire sound of that song, you can then you can create a new voice
Yes, from
based
that.
on that song.
Yeah.
But again, it's like, well, now it's picking up too much. Now it all fucking sounds like that song. So
I feel like at some point they're going to separate instrumentation, band or music from voice. I would hope.
I had a little bit of experience with that in I wish I was cool enough to in the DAW in their like graphical interface where once you've spent the tokens to blow it out into stems, evidently you're supposed to be able to like regenerate
Mm-hmm.
a
Part.
piece of or even just the guitar track or something like that. Every time I tried it, it ended up giving me a whole nother song in the guitar track. You know what I mean? Like it just was like, okay, this is too many buttons.
The studio bit is pretty hard to deal with. Is from
Yeah.
my so far. All right,
Yeah.
well let's listen to Trucker's Hitch. So give me the 1 or 30 second overview of Trucker's Hitch. What is this song about?
My dad's a trucker, and he, throughout his life, was always trying to teach me things from his life, that really didn't have a lot to do. He and I weren't very similar in a lot of ways, right? I was talking about words and computers and pictures. He's talking about truck driving and cars and shit like that. So there's this special knot that he used every day of his life as a trucker. He used it my whole life, tying down, whatever in the truck, and I didn't learn it from him. He died suddenly a couple years ago, and I am filled with regret. That would have been a really nice thing for me to retain from him. But
Oh,
now I just have these feelings, and now I have this song.
all right. Well, you got a song out of it. Let's give it. We'll listen to this for a little bit, and then we'll stare at each other while it's playing.
Nice. I love that. Love that for us.
He would shift gears without touching the clutch. I asked him once to show me, he said it ain't nothing much. When I closed my eyes, he was 100 feet tall, but he was half my size, it didn't faze him at all. He couldn't read, but he knew how to do things. He loved fishing, old westerns, and new class rings. He showed me so many times. He pulled in all the lines, tugging and twisting. I tried so hard to get it. He's gone now, and I still can't tie a trucker's hitch.
That's a sweet song. So I think we worked on this song originally together.
As Judy. Yeah, as Judy.
Yeah, and
Mhm.
again, I wasn't nailing it. But I think the reason I wasn't is because like this came from inside of you, like this is and
Fair.
so for you to be able to like pick up the tool, right? In this case, Suno, and get that out of you, I think is fantastic, and it's a really pretty song, and very touching. So I love it. I think it's great,
Yeah. Thanks, man.
and
Thanks.
you can feel the I don't know, you can feel the emotion in Wayne's delivery there. You
I,
know,
I really got lucky. Yeah.
is that your voice that you use? Like you created that voice in Suno?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a verified voice from me. I've never sung like that a day in my
Yeah, yeah.
life. I don't think I've ever even really taken it out on the road to see what it can do. But it worked. It worked for me, both as the creator as well as the person seeking catharsis. It worked for me. He really nailed it. And Judy nailed it too when we were doing that project, which was really interesting. It was interesting to see, two of these people who are not me get
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember the issue we ran into with that with and this I've run into this anytime I've done a female country voice is that they immediately go Grand Ole Opry.
Oh
Like
yeah.
soon I was like, oh, it's a female and it's country, then it's Taylor
Yeah.
Swift or it's Shania Twain or something. And I'm like,
Mhm.
no, it's not. It needs to be a little grittier, a little,
That's
and
right.
it's hard. It's hard. So it's being obviously been trained on well, I guess all the music, but
Carrie
popular.
Underwood. Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, yeah, country music, and that's it. And sometimes it would start out really cool, have like this like kind of gritty indie vibe to it, which I'm like, yeah, yeah, and then it would hit the chorus, and it was Taylor Swift, which has its place in the world, but it's not what I'm looking for, And it
Yeah.
was like big, like perfect notes, and you're like, no, we want something a little, a little
There's
dirtier
gotta
than
there's gotta be gutter punks in Nashville, right? Like, find me
exactly,
one of
exactly,
them.
yeah. So let's get back to the production side of things then. So you used your voice in Suno, and then how did you come up with the melodies for this? Did you just prompt it and let Suno build it? Okay, interesting.
There were a few times where like I would get an interesting melody in a song that didn't otherwise work. And so I have just a couple tricks, which I'm sure you do too, where you sort of download that MP3, you trim to just the part that you like, and then you feed that back as either a cover or an inspiration. Did that a couple of times. I really want to say that there were moments when, I grabbed the mic and I was like, no, do it like this. But I
Yeah,
don't think there really were. I think
yeah,
that I definitely was looking for what I was looking for, but it was prompt based.
yeah.
And so like one of the things that I ran into, and again, this was like early on, but and I suppose I'm not surprised about this, but Suno took a look at my lyrics and was like, "Oh, well, these are emo anthems. This is Taking Back Sunday." And so he was he was singing in his bedroom to the stadium, right? And it was like, "Brother, this is not a good look for you. Like, we
Yeah.
need to bring this down. Like, we're under a blanket right now." And so, like, finding all the different prompts, maybe that was kind of the breakthrough. So, number one, I started being really prescriptive about like dry vocals and like intimate recording setting, and really like it I was really painting this robot a picture of like, imagine a guy in his room. And then using the anti prompts were very important, as it turns out.
So tell
So
me, tell me about that. Like, what's a good example of an anti-prompt?
well, so like below your style box in the more options box, there's just a list of things that you want to exclude. So pulling
Oh,
out any and all synthesizers, pulling out
right.
any and all drums, on and on and on, to try and remove all the entirety of the rest of the Grand Ole Opry, right? It's just like,
Right.
okay, get
Yeah.
those out of the song. It's funny how gestural that is. It doesn't really listen, even if you have,
Hmm.
so, as we both know, but for you out there listening, hello, one person, there's like a slider system where you have weirdness, which is how
Yeah.
you're gonna really, in my experience, it's like how much the person is gonna shout. Then there's the style thing, which is supposed to tell the generator how heavily am I weighting their
You're,
style details.
yeah.
And then there's one for like, oh, how heavily am I supposed to consider a
Oh,
piece of audio that you're feeding me? Even if you have style cranked up to 100, which I often do, it's still just okay, that's a suggestion, you know what I mean?
yeah.
So,
Well,
yeah, getting
I think you nailed it at the beginning. Like Suno really wants to create radio friendly music, like
right.
stuff for the radio, And in the last update, it went from like 5.0 to 5.5 or whatever, the big update. I more than ever I see that. Like the vocals are cleaner. I mean, it's cool, right? But it's
Yeah.
like trying to
Yeah.
get what you're trying to get to, like to this kind of demo state, this grittier kind of thing is very difficult because everything is very pristine. And also the other thing I've noticed with Suno, and I'm sure you ran into this, is like once it starts putting something in a song, like, it could be feedback, it could be, crowd noise, it could be whatever it is. It just gloms onto that thing. And no matter what you do, it's like, dude, how do I get rid of this? And you can't. You have to like start over. It's crazy.
I got so lucky. There's a song on this album called Short Block, which is about, working on a car. And I was fooling around with like ad libs, and it put this ad lib in that I then couldn't stand. I was like, oh my
Yeah.
God, I got to get that out of there. And I, in the back of my mind, I was like, I'm fucked. Like, this is never going to come out.
Yeah,
I think I was able to get it out by like, I did find that now, since this time last year, the lyric engine is way better. You can go in and kind of rewrite things. And I think I was able to get it out by like not just pulling it out of the lyrics, but then putting like an M dash there or some kind of like vocal pause. And it was like, oh, thank goodness. But totally, dude.
Yeah, you get set, it'll just start like, it's like, oh, you said you wanted this and now you don't want it. Now we have to do it. The whole song is based around this. Yeah, there was I was trying to do some live stuff. Well, both in when we did the Bottomless thing and then more recently too. And it was like, this band on this stage in a small club or something. I kind of wanted like ambient crowd noise. And then all of a sudden it's just like, it sounds like choir girls singing every song, like the whole song. And I'm like, no, don't do that. And then
it loves to sing along, dude. It loves to sing along.
Style, or 100% style, 100% audio. All right, well let's listen to another song. Let's go with I thought Catch and Release was a cool song, and the reason
I love it.
This one and I think Mind Over Matter were both they kind of had a little like bluesier feel to them, and I thought this is interesting. So let's listen to this and we'll talk a little bit about how you got here.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Fishing for myself, I can't believe my body's up there. His cast is long, I'm floating low, and there's a hook inside this worm. Rising to the surface, what will I say when I meet me? The line is tight, my fins are useless, and there's a lesson here to learn. Fishing for myself. Shook off like a dog. Turns out I was in the water. My gills are open, but my mind is closed, and I can't stop thinking about my tail. Life's funny on land. School's always in, but it's not the same. I met myself, couldn't stand him, so I made a tool for taking off my scales. Fishing for myself.
Very cool. Catch
I love that one. I love that one.
Yeah, that one. It's got like a kind of a bayou thing with the banjo.
Mhm.
So, assuming you were saying like this is the feel I want in your prompts, and where's the inspiration come from that? Like, you're I guess Trucker's Hitch feels to me like a dude writing a song on the guitar in his room, and then obviously adds like some of the melody and harmonies to it. But this one feels like you're like, okay, I want this to sound like something else, like there's a particular sound you were going for here with all
My
this.
hand was on the wheel with this, yes.
Yeah.
For a time, there's there's a part of me that's making music, and then there's this like comic book shit, right? And I was like, okay, who's guesting on banjo? Is this Cheddar Griffin from Haptic Lizard or something like that? You know, but this song was special to me and is special to me because it's like a oneer, you know what I mean? Like he stops and says fishing for myself a couple times, but really there's no verse, chorus, verse. It's just
Right.
we're getting to this end, and then when there's this moment where it's obviously the climax, the song is over, you know, and there's just those songs that I've encountered in my life where it's just like this is totally unexpected. You know, it's more like being taken through a journal entry
Yeah,
or
totally.
taken through a poem. And so I really like that element of it. And you know, the song is about really not knowing which end of the fishing pole that you're on,
Right.
which I, you know, that's a condition of my life. And it was important to me to not make it too sad, but obviously not too happy. You know, it's a New Yorker cartoon, you know what I mean? It's like this thing is funny and sad and pisses you off and makes you happy and gives you a sigh of relief all at the same time.
Yeah, it's
And
definitely got a it's got nostalgia, but like, which typically will
it's
generate
got teeth. Yeah,
yeah,
but it's true, you know?
the melancholy, the banjo, and kind of some of the
Yeah,
minor stuff in there.
the
So
banjo
that's
really kicks
interesting.
that off, yeah.
Yeah. So did you with these songs? I mean, obviously you're kind of a lyrics first guy. Did
Yeah.
you ever in the production process create music first and then apply lyrics to it?
I never in the production process did that. There were moments at the end where I was fiddling around with tempos and keys. You know, like I noticed that a series of songs, I forget which ones, but I noticed that a series of songs were kind of all in the same key and I wanted more variation as I was playing. So goofed around there, but there was never a moment where I hummed a melody or gave it some kind of, and you know, I've tried to do that. Like I've looked around at, you know, this is where the people that play guitar go, well, why don't you just learn how to play guitar? But I've looked around at like riff generators or like MIDI controllers that can kind of make suggestions. And, you know, my process is really to like click the button 50 times
Yeah.
and find the one, but that hasn't worked for me yet. And so it really was about the feel of this guy in his bedroom. That was my main driver, right? And I wanted and worked hard to keep the sound of this song and most of the other songs sounding like this is attainable for a person with a couple of strings and GarageBand in their bedroom. You know what I mean?
Right.
This dude isn't, you know, I didn't want $1 million Suno sound in this project. I wanted
Right.
this project to sound, you know, as authentic as it is, as it
Yeah,
isn't.
for sure. What it all sounds like to me is, I mean, demos. I think is probably not. I mean, there are demos because like there's some, there's not everything in these songs, but to me, it sounds like a very talented musician, wrote really good songs and then was like, I need more before I show
Yeah,
this to anybody. So now I'm gonna add banjo and I'm gonna add some drums and I'm gonna add,
yeah,
and it's kind of like you mentioned Elliott Smith earlier. Like a lot of his songs to me just felt like really good demos. They're
yeah,
like, oh, it's like stuff he did in his bedroom, right? And
yeah,
that's
yeah,
kind of what it feels like, where he just kept adding layers because he's a smart guy and he knows how to do it. And now pretty soon you can take that into a band and into a studio and be like, hey, we're gonna work on these songs, and then every variation's gonna be like, no, let's make it sound like it's like Nebraska. Like, no, it has to sound like,
right. Make it sound like it was, but also but put a professional sheen on it.
yeah, but not too much.
Yeah,
They
right.
call it, like demoitis, and I am guilty of that too. Like, I used to with my band, I would create demos, and for the guitar parts were shitty, and like they had good structure, but then like I would do these terrible leads over them. But that was like what I heard a million times, so I'd take it
Yeah,
to the band, and they'd be like, "No, you have to do this, dude." And they're like, "That doesn't even make sense."
dude, we experienced this on Voton and some of the other bands
Yeah.
where the superior song came second, right?
Hmm.
And we I think it was on Urban Vapor. It was like the second song, that the one that is out now on Spotify and Apple Music everywhere, is so much better than the first one. But I had kind of built a story in my mind about the first one, and this is why that's like that.
Yeah.
That it was like I almost bounced that out. And I'll tell you what, there's a it's a double-edged sword, right? Like on Catch and Release, there's a line read where he says, "Turns out," or "Shook off like a dog. Turns out I was in the water." What we just listened to is not my first preference of like how that line goes. Like there's a little bit more pathos between those two statements, and it's like a pregnant pause. But everything else is perfect.
Right.
So it was like, I'm gonna have to let that one go because I
Yeah.
don't want to risk the rest of the Jenga tower. You know what I mean? And I have to imagine that at some point, your Metallicas and your INXSs and your real musicians in the world deal with this same type of thing in,
Oh yeah.
in some way or another. Like, well, I was fucked up, but James was on one. Like, let's just keep it.
Yeah. Yeah, that is very true. Yeah. And there's parts of songwriting too. I think even in just writing songs where, I've gone lyrics first, you write them out, and then you perform it, and then you're like, God, I really hate the way I'm doing that, but that's the way I've been doing it, and so I'm just going to keep doing it that way. You
Everything's
know,
built on that. Yeah.
everything's kind of built on this thing, and you're like, the perfectionist in all of us probably wants to go back and like, what is the optimal, phrasing or delivery of this part of the song?
We'll get them on the next
But I
one.
also think that's what like keeps people from releasing. And at the end of the
Yeah.
day, unless you are, one of the top 2% of people on Spotify, nobody cares.
Yeah.
You know,
It's unfortunate, but true. It really
yeah.
is.
My
And
mom's
so,
never gonna notice. My mom won't be like, hey, you guys should go to a
right.
seventh record and push it back to the.
Totally.
Yeah,
I feel like you probably did it different before this one, and I
yeah.
probably
This
would have
isn't
preferred that
doesn't
one.
feel like you. I don't know. I'm disappointed. So let's talk about publishing this. So this music, as you mentioned, or some of the other ones off Amazon, Spotify. This is all you sent me the Spotify link to this, and so you published it. What did you use to publish it or distribute it?
DistroKid.
Okay.
I took a cue from our process on Bottomless,
Yeah.
and one of the thing I think you might remember, like when we published the Bottomless tracks, the way that Spotify at least works is that there's this kind of like convoluted process of going and claiming that you're part of the team that can manage the page and this and that and the other thing. And that never worked for me on any of those bands. Um, so I was curious just about the process at large.
Yeah.
So one of the things I wanted to do, and of course I haven't done anything with this newfound power. I can't bring myself to go make updates to the page, but
Yeah.
I did just kind of want to go through the DistroKid process and see what it's like. And really it is sort of like walking around in the fucking 49ers locker room. It's just like this is where everybody does it, like big and little. Everybody runs through DistroKid and has to push these buttons,
It's crazy, huh?
it is
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah. It does feel like the first time I ever did it, I was like, that's it. Like, is this how like Green Day's getting their music out? I don't know. Who knows? I mean,
It
they're a
seems like it.
multi-billion-dollar company, so it's like,
I did also, I saw, and appreciated isn't the word necessarily, but I saw like into the world, right? Right. Like maybe you don't know this, listening audience, but as you go in to upload your music, it is very cool, right? You can, for a very low price, publish music to multiple services. But
yeah,
then there's the cash wrap. Then there's the impulse
yeah,
aisle where it's like, oh, do you want people to be able to see your lyrics? Your
right,
lyrics are required to submit, whether you
yeah,
want people to, whether you want to pay. And I think it's like, it's cheap enough to where you think about it. It's like $10 per artist per year.
right,
But like, if you're an aspiring fictional festival founder and want dozens of
yeah,
bands, that's going to add up. There's all kinds of other services. There was one where you can pay maybe 20 or $30 a year for the ability, or maybe this was like a one time in case emergency break glass thing where you can swap out your audio track and like fix something,
yeah, yeah,
which is like the Kanye West feature.
yeah. Yeah, I found that you can actually do that. So, like, I've released, digital tracks before, and I'm like you'll find, like, upon release, you're like, oh shit, there's like a
Yeah.
glitch in that thing, and you
Yeah.
can actually go back and do it. Yeah, it's interesting. There's a ton of like in DistroKid, which is really the only platform I've used for over the years, but it feels really rudimentary. Like my as a guy that has done a lot of designed a lot of interfaces over
A lot of
time.
product. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like,
Yeah.
man, this is it. Like, I'd love to be able to drag my, SoundCloud is a really good example. You just drag your stuff there and then like kind
Yeah.
of fill it out, asynchronously. This is like
Yeah.
you have to do all these things for
Yeah.
each song, and you kind of get lost. Like, I've uploaded the same song a couple times. I'm like, this is a nightmare. That being said, they control a big portion of the distribution of streaming music, so they're doing something right.
hmm
The one thing I noticed recently, and wanted to check with you on the AI, they've now introduced does this music contain AI or was it generated with AI? There's a few different options. And you can say yes or no. And then if you say yes, you have to define this is an AI personality. This is was the music or was the lyrics or both. There's a
Yeah.
few different like things. Did you opt into that with Wayne?
You know, at the end of the day, I'm a rule follower.
Yeah.
And when I was confronted with that prompt, I think I paused for a moment and was like, okay, I don't think I ever considered misrepresenting the music, but I did think about like, well, on the one hand, I understand why they're asking.
Yeah.
On the other hand, why the fuck are you asking? You know what I mean? Are you going to put me into some AI section, you know?
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, I think that I really feel like the very first question in that prompt was, is this a fictional AI avatar?
Yeah.
You know, and it was like, shit, why are you trying to see me? So, you know what I mean? It was like, I'm the only person in the world that is this clever and creative. What do you mean you've already built this into your product? But of course, the
Right.
answer was yes, this is exactly a fictional AI avatar. That's
Right.
exactly what this is.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, I'd asked, I think that it did give some grace. I was able to acknowledge that, the lyrics were written by a human or something like that. You know, it gave me some bone.
Yeah,
But
there's
then,
like yeah, I can't remember exactly what it is, and I'll try and find it and maybe plop it in here. But yeah, it's basically yes or no, and then if you say yes, this is I used AI for this. Then there's this series of like it kind of breaks it down, and it's funny because you feel like all right, how badly am I going to be judged if I select like yeah, this is an AI track. Then the judging begins, and then it's like, well, I wrote the lyrics, and they're like, okay, you're cool, and then you're like, well, I also developed some of the music, and they're like, all right, so I use it just for instrumentation or something like that, and that and production, I think is kind of where it netted out for this last project I did, and I was like, well, I don't feel so bad, like I did a lot of the work here. And to me, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna do it because I want to see what happens. I want to see if
yeah,
I end up, exiled into this like AI filtered list that you can't play on your library over,
right.
Spotify, or you have to like go find AI music. I'm just curious to see how it goes. I mean, the reality is nobody's really listening anyway. So,
Right.
so it's
It,
like,
it except for on Suno, evidently, where people rack up, trillions of views for
yeah,
that's
exactly.
probably
Yeah,
a scam too. You know, I want to talk to that for a moment, like
yeah,
because the question that when I'm confronting my judgers, right,
yeah,
whoever they are in my mind, the main question that I get from that evil peanut gallery is like, well, why do you have to put it on Spotify? If it's just for you and you're telling me that you like it and that's okay and that's enough for you, then why do
yeah.
you have to put it up onto this platform where it dilutes the pure, you know what I mean?
Right.
To that I would say, and it's very simple, it's the only way for me to listen to my music that I have made shoulder to shoulder with other music that I love. In other
Right.
words, it's the only way to make playlists that include my stuff that is
Hmm.
not 10 fucking tracks of my shit, back to back to back to back. And
Or other AI music. Like, I don't
or
want to hear
other AI music. That's right. I don't want to hear
I don't
somebody
want to
else
hear
after my music. I want to hear the fucking Deftones after my music because this is fantasy football and that's the fantasy. You know what I mean?
exactly. I agree.
And so that's what I say to my haters,
Yeah.
to the haters. It shouldn't be in a different category. Yes, it is difficult to navigate, but so is the internet. You know what I
Right.
mean? And like it, even if you don't agree with how it came to exist, the unfortunate reality, evidently for you, is that it still exists.
Yeah. And all the copyright the folks that are fighting for copyright, and I totally get this. Like, I should not be able to rip off a Taylor Swift voice and sound.
Don't want to.
You know, I shouldn't be able to do that, and you shouldn't be able to do that even if like I wasn't doing it via AI. Like they say, well, it's trained on popular music and music, and you're taking royalties away from them. I'm like, not really, but you shouldn't be able to rip them off like verbatim. But at the same time, you could create a band that very much rips off Taylor Swift, and you'd probably fly under the radar. You know what I mean? And then the other side of it to me is like, and I've always said this, is like, at the end of the day, like, who really cares? Like, you know, there's so much music out there that is based, all music is based on music that's come before it.
Yes.
And so at the end of the day, it's like, yeah, it's going to be. And, you know,
Yeah.
you might come up with something cool out of it and something new entirely. And if it promotes the creation of new sounds and new music, and you're not, you know, blatantly taking money out of somebody else's pocket, then who gives a shit, you know?
I agree. I mean, and there's so many of these rhetorical, open-ended, you know, ways to balance it out. It's like, well, shit, I could be making music based entirely on samples. Would that be better?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, and it
Yeah.
all boils down to what's, you know, who's cooler? AI music that's cool to listen to that was made by AI, or
Right.
music that is absolutely fucking terrible to listen to that was made by a person. Like I can't answer this question. You know what I mean? Like I don't know.
Well, it all gets
It-
down to taste and subjectivity, and it doesn't.
that's right.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, you know, I do think opting into the AI thing, I'm doing it right now with the stuff I've just released. And I'm doing it not necessarily because I'm a rule follower, because you know, but I'm doing it because my social experiment here is like, what happens to this stuff? And are they gonna, like you said earlier, are they gonna like ghettoize this stuff, and it's gonna be in its own little box that you have to go find, and they're gonna make it hard to find, and punish AI, you know, artists for being
Yeah.
AI. But
Yeah,
then
I hope not.
then I'm like, do I become a bigger fish in a smaller pond at that point? And do I have, you know, is there a better shot for your music to actually get heard? You know?
Can you rule the ghetto?
Yeah, yeah. And right now
That's
that
interesting.
AI ghetto, I think, is like Suno itself, right? You can go to Suno and stream. I mean, it looks like these things are getting millions of streams, but
It sure looks like it. Yeah.
I have never spent any time listening to music on Suno other than my own music. And, you know, I'll create a playlist of stuff that I've created, or listen to your stuff before it comes out, or
Mhm.
my other, you know, other people I know. But like, I'm not listening. I'm not on Suno to hear music.
No, neither am I. And as a matter of fact, again, back to why would you put it on Spotify? It's because I don't really want to send my friends and family to Suno. You know what I mean? I just don't.
Yeah.
You know, number one, because maybe like the selfish kind of Warholian artist in me, like that demystifies my craft. Like,
Yeah.
don't see behind the curtain. You know, that's where I
Yeah.
do
They
my shit.
download it. They're like, oh, I can create music too.
Well, that would actually be cool, but also, yeah, no, this is my thing. I'm the cool one, right? But yeah, like I wouldn't want them then sliding down the water slide of whatever happens after your song ends,
Exactly.
which is like some other song comes on and it's like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah. They're like, oh, cool. It's Russian rap. I love that.
But it is like I just have to be self-aware. I'm in no defense of this, but this is an elitist, hypocritical attitude, right? Like that's right,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah.
it's good for us, and we're using it for good, and what we're doing is good and cool and okay, but everybody else
Yeah.
fucking sucks.
Everybody else sucks.
And that's
think-
happening inside of me unconsciously. Like I just
Yeah.
have that reaction, you know?
Well, I think that's human nature. I think when, you know, I remember going to playing like live shows with my band when we were playing a lot, and you'd be on a lineup of like three or four bands, you know, and you'd fall somewhere in there. And to me, like,
Everybody
you know,
else sucks.
music is art, and everybody's supposed to be fun, but I was like, this is a game. Like, I want to win. I want to be the best band of the night. You know, and it's like, so this just becomes like battle of the bands all of a sudden. And it's weird. Like this whole competitive thing comes up when you're creating music, even though it's not supposed to be that way. But it is. You're trying to like, one, I think you're dealing with your thoughts and your emotions. So you're like, take this seriously.
Right.
You know, unless you're writing just like fun songs or whatever. But, you know, most people aren't, and they're writing stuff that matters. And then two, it's like, yeah, you want to be the best at what you do. And so you don't want that diluted with other stuff that is not the best. Even though it's
Distractions. Yeah.
could be as good or better than what you're doing. I think it's just human nature. I really.
Somebody else is the main character in their story, not my
Oh
story.
yeah, imagine how many people are out there, doing this, talking about
Right.
creating and figuring out ways to distribute it. I still think so. Another good friend of mine, he has a band called Straight Snakes, an AI. It's an AI band,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. I've listened.
he's just launched like the third collection of songs from that, and he chose not to do the AI thing, and he was just kind of like, because he's like, they're gonna siphon it off. It's gonna get, if you say yes, then it's going in here. But what was interesting about his music, I think the first album he went to publish, and he was not using DistroKid, and I can't remember what tool he was using, but it detected AI and said you can't upload this. So there's a lot of AI detection going on. And what I didn't try with DistroKid is to upload it and say no. So I'm curious. I might try that and see if they've implemented a detection algorithm.
Yeah. Yeah. That would be interesting. I was playing with some of these Wayne Honda songs, and I went back to like some of our bottomless, but I did, I think there's like two main AI checkers,
Yeah.
that are just, and I got the weirdest, most inconsistent results. One of them was like, oh yeah, 90% AI, and one of them was like 90% this was made by a human. You know what I mean? Like it's all over the place, and it would be good to know what's being checked. You know what I mean? Or is this like spectral analysis, and there's some kind of
Yeah.
unseen algorithm in the code that is being measured, or is this like how doofy the lyrics are, or what, it just, I would love to talk to an AI detection scientist for an hour just to ask stupid questions like that,
Well, if
because
there's one out there and they happen to be listening to this, hit
hey,
us up.
bring it on, guys. Yeah.
Cool. Well, let's get to. There was one other song I wanted to highlight because I thought this was interesting and called "Mind Over Matter." So this one's definitely got like a kind of a fuzzy Black Keys kind of vibe to it. And in my mind, no pun intended here with Mind Over Matter, Wayne had just ripped out like 5 or 6 songs that kind of had the same feel, and he was like, you know what? I'm gonna step on the crunch box here, the fuzz box, and we're gonna do something different. But from a production standpoint, I'd be curious to understand like how you got to this sound because it's different. So let's listen to the song first, and we'll come back to that.
Sick.
All right, this is "Mind Over Matter" by.
Flew down from the sky. They served their country and saw it firsthand. There was an urgency to make me understand. They'd say, son, it's mind over matter. It's gonna be hard, but they don't mind, and you don't even matter. I'm alive and well, that doesn't seem like enough. Supposed to.
I like that song a lot.
Thanks.
I'm envisioning old timies, old heads talking to the youngsters. They've been through a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm like, okay, we got a World War
Yeah,
II
that was my grandpa.
Yeah.
And when I was a little kid, he said, Justin, in the Army, it's mind over matter. They don't mind, and you don't matter. And it was like, oh shit, and like I kept that.
Yeah.
And it's been an interesting thing to have rolling around in my head for a while.
Right.
And this was the last song that I wrote as a function of this project.
Oh, cool.
And it really was sort of like a coda, right? Where I was done. And then I had, there are pieces of this song that before were trying to be whole songs, like I had a song that I was trying to write called Alive and Well, and it was going to be about I'm alive and well, but also I'm alive and well,
Oh, yeah.
you know what I mean? There was a lot of those goofy little couplets that I had laying around or ideas, and they kind of came together really in a pretty way on this story. And again, I've realized that I do this a lot. I have this sort of pupating chorus, right, where it starts in this one way, but by the time we get to the end, we've kind of like bent the lens a little bit, and it's therapeutic, right? It's cathartic.
Yep.
And so I had that, but yeah, I was like, I don't know if I can really, in a world where anybody's listening to this, I don't know if I can have somebody listen to yet another song of some dude strumming on his guitar. And
Right.
so I did want to bring, I really liked the bluesy element of, catch and release and
Yeah.
some of the other things that show up. And I, in my mind, was already starting to, you hit it. I was thinking the word fuzz. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? I want some fuzzy, like really death from above style bass sounds. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Here this dude has spent so much time with his guitar. I just can imagine that he wants to just hold a bass,
Right.
and get down. And so it really came together that way. And like Kendall, my fiance, was like, "This sounds like a Beck song." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like this is,
Really, it's got a very bad. Yeah, that's good. Good
yeah,
analogy.
yeah. And it felt like a cool way to end it. It's like, and you maybe said this, before we got on, but it was like, okay, here's my demos, and now here's
Mhm.
what I'm capable of. You know what I mean? This would be my sound if I was making my sound. It was
This
cool.
feels like the jumping off point into the next
Yeah,
thing,
yeah,
and I think every artist, every band goes through that where you listen to like an album and you're like, that was supposed to be an album too, right?
right. Yeah,
Like that song is like the transitional point where they're like, because it takes like when you write 9 or 10 songs, I mean, it takes a while, and those
Mhm.
things ruminate and especially in like a band situation, it's like, it might take years, right?
Yeah,
And so like whoever started writing that song is not the same person that wrote that song. That
yeah.
now, and by the time you write that last song, you're off into a different dimension, like lyrically and physically,
You're
mentally.
totally
So
right, dude. Yeah,
changing.
there's
And I
lots of
think
overlap.
in Suno, I think that's happening, but it's happening like hyper speed. It's like these bands are shifting because the ideas come so quickly and the sounds can be generated so quickly that you're like all the stuff you want to do as a musician can like happen really quickly. You're like, okay, I
Yes.
want to create a demo album, and then you're like, well, it'd be cool if I added a little bit of fuzz or a little bit of more instrumentation. Be cool if it was pop, and all of a sudden you've got this like transition, this arc to an artist, which allows you to like kind of live out this full life cycle of a band or an artist, and then in a matter of weeks, months, it could be a year. And then what happens is you start generating like side projects from this. You're like, like, oh, cool. Now Wayne's in with Judy Stetson, and now
That's
Wayne
right.
is writing songs for this country album, and and all these things can start happening, and it's all the shit that happens over like a 10-year period with a real band, but you can
Right.
do it, in the
Prompting
world.
it.
Yeah, it's crazy, and that didn't dawn on me until recently because again, my friend who's doing the Straight Snakes, like he's put out 3 albums worth of three, I don't know, it's probably 30 something songs,
Yeah.
and they're all like you can feel the transition like as he started through where he's at now. I'm like, oh man, like this has happened, this band has progressed, and the next thing I in my mind is like, all right, the lead singer's gonna have a side project.
Right.
He's
Yeah.
gonna want to strip it all back down, or he's gonna go post punk, or he's gonna do something else, and I think that's so cool. Like we get to like live that out doing using these tools, and you get to just explore this whole life cycle that you would normally have to like go get on the road for 10 years to figure out and
It's a
probably pick
really
or something. You don't have to do that now.
Yeah, it's a really evolved like like look at it. Like I'm sitting here looking at the other side of the coin that you're talking about of like, no, that's not how a real band would do it. That's not how Bono would do it. We would be
Yeah.
sitting here and getting it right and making it all sound cohesive. But I have been confronting exactly what you're talking about. It's like weird. The technology and the process wants to be in motion and have it sound like whatever it sounds like.
Yeah.
I'm the one trying to bind it to this notion that like, no, man, these guys would have only had these instruments. You
Right.
know, like these guys were, this was this one weekend, you know what I mean? Like
Right.
they didn't have an organ then, you know, but that's even silly because we obviously know how MIDI controllers work and
Right.
that you can have a studio in your pocket, you know, like
Yeah.
it really is a free your mind type of like exercise. The other
Yeah.
thing that I've noticed, you know, talking about speed, and this has been interesting for me, it's given me a real appreciation for, and I can't name one, of course, but songs from the past that have this crazy lightning in a bottle energy. Helter Skelter is a good example. You
Yeah.
know, it's like Helter Skelter sounds like it caught the fucking building on fire and they were playing because they thought it would put the fire out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Helter Skelter sounds like something that happened right now, when in reality, they probably fucked around with Helter Skelter for 6 months.
Right. Yeah. It
Somebody
sounds like
had to
walked in the room and like, you
somebody
know.
had to keep coming to work and say, this is still a good idea. You know what I mean? These feelings are still valid, which
Right.
is hard.
Yeah.
Whereas in a prompting environment, you know, you can come home and write some fucking hitter, right? And
Right.
it exists now. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? I didn't have to stick with those feelings. I didn't have to do anything maladaptive or unhealthy. I got to write them and I got to fucking, you know, show them out. And now I'm moving on. You know, now that has happened and I can like let go of it. It's pretty cool.
I just heard the other day, I was reading something about, I can't remember which Radiohead song it was, and I think it was post OK Computer, but there was a song that they worked on for a year. Like it was a year long, you know,
Yeah.
practice, re recorded, you know, and I was like, you know, and I think
Yeah.
it's one of their top songs, and I wish I could remember what it was right now, but it's like, man,
That's a lot.
and obviously, you know, they are, you know, Radiohead is an
Yeah. They're
amazing,
musicians.
yeah, an amazing group of musicians. And I just like, I'm like, in a year, what are you doing to that song? Like, and I would love to hear how it started and how it ended, you know, and figure out. And I wonder if there was like so many points where, you know, 4 out of 5 of them were like, dude, it's fine. And then there's one
Mhm.
guy going like Johnny Greenwood's like, no, dude, we need like, you know, I need
Yeah. Who's the guy?
we
Is it
need
Johnny
development.
or is it Tom? That's like, no, dude, three
Yeah,
more months.
yeah, and you know, I'm not going to argue with those guys, but so now, you know, like I said, you can kind of hyperspeed a year and really work on it. Now, I am not comparing, you know, the music that you're making or I'm making to a Radiohead, you know, masterpiece, but you know, I don't think I could ever write a Radiohead masterpiece. So it doesn't really matter. Those guys are of a different caliber, different breed. But for the hobbyist that wants to create music and wants to, you know, get it out of your head, out of your mind, and onto the digital landscape quickly, and be able to appreciate it and potentially have other people appreciate it, I think this is where you're at, man. You know.
I totally agree. If you've ever drawn a picture of your band or your band logo or your band name in your notebook at
Yeah.
school,
Yeah.
if you've ever made a mood board or a Pinterest board or shit of like, you know, Debbie Harry next to Joan Jett, next to the
Right.
gal from Fantagram and said like, damn, what would that sound like? Like this is technology for your imagination. And I do feel connected to it from a hobbyist place, from an arts and crafts place. Like this is a way for me to, and you already know this. This is a way for me to just extend this thing that I was already doing. You know, I was already
Yeah.
making band logos and
Yeah.
pretending anyway. And so it's like I feel totally lucky. I feel like they just put a skate park in next to my house. Like really,
Right.
you know,
Yeah.
I get to have this much fun.
You have an idea, and you're like, you know what? Wayne will sing that song, and
That's
that
right.
you, know, you start building your roster of AI personalities and personas, and you can be like, yeah, let's try that one with this band, and let's try that one with the Hobgoblin, or try it with what would Votan do to that one, you know?
Oh, dude, there was a minute where Wayne was Votan. You know what I mean?
Oh,
Like, this is what this is. I
yeah,
see. I don't think he is, but
yeah,
like Roach Clip from Haptic Lizard is the drummer in Votan. They all, they're all kicking it, dude.
they're all
We
okay.
got to get ready for Bottomless 28. You know what
I
I'm
know. Is Wayne going to be playing there?
Oh yeah, I cannot wait to hear what this dude sounds like buffed up like the fucking Disturbed, dude. Like
Yeah,
it's gonna be crazy.
what is next for Wayne? What are we doing? We just talked about kind of that jumping off point and maybe that last song being that. What's going on with Wayne?
Wayne is cooling right now, and he feels really good about getting those songs out and like in the way that they are, which with like 1 week of distance from those songs, I'm looking at like, damn, lyrically, I bit off a lot, and feel good about that. I've sort of like set him down and I've moved on to this kind of like really noisy, fuzzy, gross, like kind of alt punk thing
Okay.
called Bug, which is fun. None of there may be, I recognized one song in that batch of songs, which are just very fast and
Yeah.
trying to be more repetitive. I did recognize one song that was like, oh, that's a Wayne song. He wrote that.
Yeah.
But really, I think that as those feelings come up, and if I start to, what I hope is that I can start to recognize like patterns in my lyrics, which are normally just kind of coming out without knowing who's performing what. But I hope I can kind of recognize his patterns and his signature. And then if I have something cool, then, maybe I'll put a single out, or, it could be that there's one or two songs in there that might sound good in that kind of mind over matter template, that could essentially be a single or something. But I have no plans. It's too fun to have plans right now. It's just like, damn, like let's just
Yeah.
go. I mean, I do know he has an Instagram profile, therefore Wayne, that doesn't have any pictures on it. I need to, I do know what he looks like, and I need to kind of figure out how far I'm taking that. I went to a certain level of depth with the bottomless bands, and I
Yeah.
think it would be nice to do that kind of for everybody.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just it's maximum fun right now, and I'm so grateful that you and I connected when we did, last year, and like your it's just like a pay it forward thing, right? You had some experience with Suno, and you're like, let's do this Suno thing, you know what I mean? And that allowed me to kind of get acclimated. I think it would have been the wrong move for me to just go from hearing about it to prompting the same day.
Yeah.
That we had our whole 6 months of working together and kind of like learning the shape and size of this process was like really good for me.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Yeah.
it was really good for me as well. Like I learned so much during that bottomless thing and that project, and really not just about the technology and its capabilities, but really about like what it takes to dive into a persona and
Yeah.
and also like the investment, not only like the mental investment, and like if you really care about it and you care about the project, like anything you're doing, right, like you got to get into it, and then pulling out of it is like like, oh shit, like that was a lot of work. I didn't realize. And so like I think, and as we at the beginning of this we talked about like the Judy Stetson project with Wayne and all that, and our working on that. I think I don't want to say burned out. I think I was zapped in terms of like energy, and didn't really understand like what it takes, like what I'd just put myself through. Like we did
Yeah.
6 different bands, and not, I mean, like you could do 6 different bands today if you wanted to. Like by the end of the day, you could have 6 bands done.
Right.
But would it be good, and would it be just, and would it be, what you think is legitimate music? And I think, we put ourselves through the ringer with that.
We did. Yeah.
All of the accompaniment that went around that, with the visuals and the, and it's just like, oh shit, like I just created a small business and, kind of forgot.
Totally, dude.
And I was like, I'll do another one, and it's never as easy as you think it's going to be. And,
Yeah.
I think it was cool for you. I think the energy switch was cool because you were like, you were stoked. You'd written all this stuff, and then you're like, oh, cool. Now I can jump in and like,
Yeah.
and now if you think about like working on stuff together, like we can both man the controls. You know what I mean? Like we
I
both
love
know
it.
how to drive a forklift, and that
I
is
think,
cool.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, really, again, Suno, since you're still locked in and listening, like
Yeah.
I think the next throttle point is like shared personas
I totally agree with that.
in
Yeah.
the Suno product. If music is supposed to be a collaborative experience, which of course it is, both making it and listening to it, then we should be able to demo back and forth using the same set of sounds, you know, to really up our craft. Because that was really the thesis of working together in the first place was, at least for me selfishly, was like, I want to work with somebody that's going to protect me from putting out dog shit. You
Right.
know what I mean? Like if we're both watching each other's back, it's only going to get better. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And like if we're both not only watching each other's back, but also kind of kicking ideas back and forth, and
Mhm.
we've got kind of this next level down tactility on, you know, the stems or whatever it is, then it will
Yeah.
only get weirder and it will only get better.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I also think not just the shared personas, but I think like the production side of things has to get easier with Suno. Like you talked about the whole GarageBand interface, and you know you can go in
Yeah.
and edit stems, and I know, I mean those guys they're moving so fast over there, but it's like, you know, the idea that everything is generative and not iterative is, you know, which is, it's generative AI, I get it, but like being able to iterate on something
Hmm.
be so nice. So Suno, if you're listening,
Hey,
let me iterate, man. There's like times, and you mentioned it before, you get like a song, you're like, oh my God, it's like 90% there. I want to change the bass line, or I want to change, you know, I don't know, I want this part to change, but I love everything else. And, you know, good luck.
you're effed. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a whole new generation. And then you have to, you know, then you got to deal with whatever you get next. And so
Yeah.
it
It's Jenga. It's Jenga.
it's the gamble. It's like the, you know, you're pulling the lever and like, all right, what do I get? But the other time you're like, no, I got two sevens. I just want that one to be the seven. You know, I need, yeah. So,
It's exactly like that. It really, I feel like this with image creation all the time.
oh, yeah.
It feels like mining. And you know, like not to get too dorky into, you know, the liminal space of vectorized large language models or whatever the bullshit is, right? But for me, it feels like mining for Bitcoin, you know, or mining for treasure. It's just like, okay,
Yeah.
or fishing, you know, did I cast right? Did I do all my side? And
Right.
now the other 51% of this is luck, you know, and
Yeah.
it definitely affects your body chemistry when you get on one. It
Oh,
certainly
yeah.
affects you when you get off one too, you know, where it's just like nothing is working and it's like, okay, that's probably the time to walk away from it because it's only
Those
going to
are,
piss
I
you off.
realized that too, because I would spend hours and hours, like, you know, just like refresh and, you know, and then now, like, my workflow is literally, I'll put in the music prompt, you know, the recorded music or the vocal prompt. I'll generate a few things, and like, if it's not going my way, I just walk away. It's like,
Next
it's
thing, yeah.
like a slot machine, you know, some willpower. I'm not going to keep hitting the button, you
It is,
know?
yeah, because it will take as much time. It wants to take more time. You know what I mean? There's going to be a moment when there's ads in this interface.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
It's teaching us to keep it locked and loaded. There's going to be a moment where instead of auto generating a cover for each song, it's going to auto generate a video. And guess what? There's going to be fucking, you know, bounce sheets in that video somewhere. You know what I mean? Like it's going to get as dark and awful as we imagine,
Well,
right?
it
And
has to.
so, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So let's use it while it's here.
It's a token based thing too, right? It's a credit based thing. So as you subscribe and then you get, you know, whatever number of credits you get on your plan, like it's in their best interest to like not nail it the first time.
Right.
'Cause-
Right.
and
Yeah.
I'm curious what the average like, you know, number of versions it is before you get to a song that you're like, yeah, okay, I like it. Like on your project for Wayne, what, like how many do you think you generated per song? Like how many versions?
Um, I tried to like stay organized with like nomenclature and be like, well,
Oh,
this is a version and this is an iteration, but I definitely was in the 20 or 30 per
before
song,
you got
you
to like
know?
the
Yeah.
one.
Yeah. And then when you go to work in studio where you're working with the stems, it costs quite a bit of tokens to initially break the song out into stems. I
Yeah, it's
think
like
you pay
or something.
a couple tokens per stem, you know, it's pretty wild. Interestingly though, like you know, the tool in tension with whatever it is you're doing, this other kind of like punkier thing, like one of the constraints I'm trying to put on myself is like, you know, 10 version max, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like if
that's cool.
this gets too labored, this is not the thing I'm trying to do,
Right.
you know?
Yeah.
So we'll see how that goes.
They're playing live in the studio. Yeah. I
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
cool. Well, let's see. Where can we find Wayne? Wayne is on Spotify, Apple Music, all the.
Wayne's on all the places. Search Wayne Honda. Probably gonna make some T-shirts pretty soon. I'll send you one. And yeah, he'll be definitely playing Bottomless. The next scheduled Bottomless festival is 28, unless we decide we want to have one sooner. But check Wayne out. He probably wouldn't mind that. He
All
wouldn't be
right.
too embarrassed for you to listen to his music.
So listen up, people. All right. Thank you. We will
Yeah.
talk soon.
Thanks for having me. Thank you so much.
All right. Take care.
Okay, bye.
Out here fast asleep, woke up to see the earth rise. She's way out in the deep, wavy blues touch my eyes. Don't remember what I did there. Been so long since I left. I'm the only thing in space that cares. I blow my airlock to confess. Sun can't set if you're on it. Moon don't glow on its own. Earth rise pretty, can't say that it ain't. Tonight we'll take the long way home. You think that's air that you're breathing? I'm afraid I need these tanks. It's not just the stars that I'm reading. I file the galaxies up in their ranks. Gotta listen to your tools, man, or you're never gonna find the shrine. Out here shooting out my blues, man. No gravity, a little Saturnine. Sun can't set if you're on it. Moon don't glow on its own. Earth rise pretty, can't say that it ain't. Tonight we'll take the long way home. Back home they were constellations. Down here just the old neighborhood. My friends got no patience for nations, and most of them never seen wood. I hope it don't sound too pretentious. Just figured I'm done standing down. Liftoff was hard, no splashdown in sight. I wear my helmet like a crown. Ain't no such thing as up out here with me. The quiet never stops out here, you'll see. It's just another gig, only one suit to wear. My over here so goddamn big, it starts all the way over there. Set if you're on it. Moon don't glow on its own. Earth rise pretty, can't say that it ain't. Tonight we'll take the long way home. Earth rise pretty, can't say that it ain't. Reminds me about time to